Welcome, everyone, to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. I'm with my very beautiful co-host. And yes, men are beautiful too, Dennis Gaither. Hi, Dennis.
Hey, Cornelia, greetings. Hello, Cornelia and everyone else.
It's
Happy to be doing
wonderful.
this again.
Yes, it's wonderful to be here with you. And I'm so excited because of you always bring these timely topics that are exactly perfect for what it is that we're experiencing now in our humanity here on planet Earth. So always practical tools, exactly what it is that we need. Today, we're going to be talking about gratefulness. And Dennis is the one that creates the content for the show. So I get to sit back and I get to experience the content the same way that you do. So today we're going to be talking about gratefulness. And Dennis says that gratefulness is an exchange of love. When we meet in gratitude, we meet in love. In that place of gratitude, the heart is opened. And there are many seeming levels of experiencing and knowing gratitude, but ultimately it comes down to this. It's a sharing of our oneness. Right, Dennis?
Absolutely. It's a sharing of our oneness. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity here to share about gratitude. But I like to start with a little story because I like stories. And there are so many opportunities to experience gratitude. Even just a little walk in the park, just going for a walk in the park, just being open to being surprised and noticing the green that's there. Even in December, after we've had some sub-freezing temperatures, and just sinking into the marvel of that. But one in particular, though, just last week, an experience all too common in this day and age of having my computer malfunction, not doing things I wanted it to do, and I really needed it to be doing that. And that's a trigger for me. I get this little anxiousness. And after quite a number of attempts to troubleshoot it, calling customer service and talking with several people, and they were very nice and helpful, but I appreciate it, but we didn't get it solved. But finally, I got somebody who was a senior person there. And clearly he knew his stuff. And we spent probably a couple hours of his time and my time walking through this process of all the different things. And I noticed that over the course of that time, my sense of urgency and anxiousness, and oh my God, when are we ever going to get this all that? And I noticed it just dissipating. And I noticed the sense of there was more than just technical help. There was relationship developing there. And it started just as grateful for, oh my God, I got this help here. But then as it deepened more, it was like a just of opening into, there's a real mutual connection. I felt his caring. And this was like a 2-hour little time, and I doubt that I will ever encounter this person again. But it was a deeper experience than just simply, I'm glad I got some help.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to continue with that same experience after we were finished over the next several days, actually, of just deepening, starting with just the feeling of gratefulness, gratitude, gratefulness, because it is an experience of sharing, but it's also the doorway to opening to sharing, maybe from a place that maybe felt more constricted. And as I really just deepened into that, I became aware of kind of a much wider sense of compassion, but also little parts of little exiled parts of myself, little memories from childhood of being a little kid and kind of frightened and confused and being alone and nobody's there.
Yeah.
It kind of got activated. It was clear that it kind of got activated by the computer issue there. And
Yeah.
by bringing a sense of gratitude, connection to those, then there was a deeper healing of something in me.
Yeah.
So the practice of gratitude went way beyond, hey, I'm glad I got some help. Thank you. It went way beyond that.
Yeah. And
So,
that must have been a really, very supportive experience for you, right? A very supportive experience. And like you said, you went deeper. First you were triggered, a little frustrated, right? And then this wonderful angel, this computer angel, right? On Earth,
But
a computer Earth angel.
there's a computer angel. So I just have to say, we have a tech person, Zach, here. I want to say maybe you're a computer angel too here. We're
Totally, Zach.
blessing you too.
Yes, absolutely. We've got our Earth tech angels that are helping us so that we can do what it is we need to do. But I totally understand what you're talking about with the computer thing when it's not functioning properly, and the anxiousness that you feel, because as I told you just before we came on today, I'm traveling, and I have had so many challenges technical wise that actually it's a miracle that I'm on with you right now.
Okay, well, so I'm grateful for that too, Cornelia. So there's a grateful for things, but then there's a deeper level of gratitude, and that's actually where I want to focus.
Okay, great.
And and I've been a student of gratitude for a long time, and I have appreciated. I read one of my favorites here, David Steindl-Rast's book, like over 20 years ago, Gratefulness
Oh,
and the Heart of Prayer. David
great. And
Steindl-Rast.
what was that quote that you had? Do you still have it? Do you have it available handy right there? That quote that you put?
This is a quote from him.
Yes.
One of many, actually. He's a very interesting individual, if you're not familiar with him. But
No, I have never heard of him before.
yeah, well, he's I believe, Jesuit monk,
Okay.
and has been all his life. Born in Austria, has had quite an interesting life, but studied Zen, did many other things, kind of like Thomas Merton in certain ways. Still living
Uh-huh.
in his 90s. And if you Google him on YouTube, he's done some beautiful talks. He's a wonderful speaker. I really
Oh, good.
appreciate him. But this little quote here, surprise is the seed of gratefulness, because that's the opening to gratefulness, a willingness to be surprised. Surprise
Yeah.
is the seed of gratefulness. Become aware of surprises. Relish surprise as life's gift. One of many quotes from David. I found, though, in spite of that there was some challenge here as I thought about how do I want to talk about this and present this in some way. And things, what I noticed was that things just weren't coming together all that well. There's been so much written about it, benefits and even brain changes that people have documented, but I was feeling like I wanted to, while honoring that, maybe go to a different level with it. And so, so at a certain point, I just decided I'm just going to ask. I'm just going to ask Spirit. Or my term for that is Holy Spirit. It's a term that just means the part of ourselves inside that remembers who we really are. And it's a process that I learned from some friends, David, Paul, and Candace Doyle, years ago, of first just extending love to whatever our experience is, connecting something that we're grateful for, going deeper into the gratitude, and then inviting the dialogue. And so I did that. And so much of this conversation that we're having comes from what I actually got. Now, with these kind of things that are received in this way, the first recipient is the person it comes to. This is stuff Dennis needs to know. This is stuff that's useful for me. Your image is frozen there. I don't know if you're still hearing me there or not, Cornelia. But then it is shared in a spirit of maybe this will be useful for someone else as well.
Are you an entrepreneur who's struggling to be seen? Do you know deep in your gut that if you could just be seen and get your message out, that you'd easily reach your tribe? How wonderful would it be if a fairy godmother came along, waved her magic wand, and suddenly you were more than visible. You were dazzling. Would you sign up for that? Hi, I'm Deborah Lupien, spiritual teacher and international best-selling author of Akasha Unleashed, The Missing Manual to You. I'm here with the wonderful news that such a person actually exists. Her name is Kornelia Stephanie, and she's gifted at helping entrepreneurs become dazzling. I've watched her work her magic over and over to turn invisible entrepreneurs into dazzling stars who easily attract their ideal clients and have fun doing it. Not long ago, I was the recipient of her gift. As a guest on her show, Living Heaven on Earth, not only did we have fun, but Kornelia helped me get my message out to a wider audience, which resulted in a very nice spike of traffic to my website. and more subscribers to my list. Did I mention it was incredibly easy? Kornelia's running a veritable media empire of uplifting programs. They cover a broad range of topics and have a large appreciative audience. That's a winning combination, folks. Guess what? Those shows need guests and hosts. Imagine, after guesting on a few shows, moving up to hosting your own popular show. That is absolutely possible for you. So now you have a decision to make. Are you going to keep struggling on your own, or are you going to sign up for some Kornelia Stephanie dazzling visibility magic? Email radio@korneliastephanie.com today.
Okay.
So we were just getting started again. So,
Okay.
so I'm just going to say a little bit of what came here. And I want to say that basically I just asked Spirit, I'm willing to let go of everything that I thought I knew about gratitude.
Oh.
And just teach me. And and I expressed my gratitude for whatever comes. And so what came was, I mean, it really started with something inside and saying, I'm grateful for you coming to me with this request, saying this to me. And it kind of explained that gratitude, although we usually think of it as something that's exchanged, you give me something, I send you gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
In this level where all of us seem separate from each other, it makes a certain amount of sense, but that's not the deepest understanding.
Mm.
That's not the deepest understanding. That is the kind of the opening quote, which actually comes from what I received, that it's really an exchange of love. And when we meet in gratitude, we meet in love. And in that place, the heart is opened and we're joined. So here in our experience, there are many different levels of this experience. But ultimately, all of them come down to one thing, that it's a sharing of our oneness. And it's our oneness with God or the divine, whatever it is, with each other, with all the universe, and all that we are inside of ourselves. Ultimately, it's that. It's not only the experience of that, but it's also the pathway into that. It's the heart opener. It's the bridge. But when I really sit with that and grasp the significance of that, there, or if we do that, if I do that, then there's an awareness that there is a deep place inside where there actually is no giving and receiving because there is no separation. That's a very tender, deep place to come to. So but we start with where we are here, kind of where it seems like I'm over here and you're over there, and I'm grateful for you giving me this opportunity, and you may be grateful for whatever I may bring. That's the way it feels to us here in this world. But if we really sit with that, if I really sit with that, really deeply go into that, there's a little something else that comes in. So maybe I'm given something and I feel grateful for that, but maybe there's a little something else too. Like, did I really deserve this? Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to have to give them something back.
Yeah.
There's a little something that kind of gets in the way of this is just simply an acknowledging and a sharing of our oneness. Or maybe I give something. Maybe I give something to somebody, and I think it's just out of the goodness of my heart. But once in a while, that somebody doesn't reciprocate the gratitude that I think I might want. And those are wonderful teachers. That little niggle, that little, oh, why didn't you, that actually shows me that there is actually something else there. Mm-hmm. Something else that gets in the way of just using gratitude to share our oneness. All those little things are things like the ego mind creates to maintain us. It's that little bit of separation.
Yep.
Following. Okay.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, I love the piece about, the giving and receiving, that deep place of, it's really not about that. It's just really about being with it all. Mm-hmm. Because it's that is the depth of the energy, isn't it?
It is, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So I wanted something a little bit more. How do I bring this somewhat abstract idea into my life here a little bit more? And so I want to I'll actually read to you the kind of the question as I posed it.
Okay.
because the answer came towards that. And so I said, Dear Spirit, or Dear Holy Spirit, from the bottom of my heart, this was really a very heartfelt request. How can I use gratitude or gratefulness to heal and transform my life now, in my present circumstances, with all the feelings and fears and the hopes and the joys and wonders of this life?
Beautiful.
So guide me for my own healings, that I may share that with others as well, as there's a deep wish in my heart to be of service in this way and to share in this way. And what I got back was this also very heartfelt, and it starts with Dear One, which is the way it always starts. Start with that yearning in your heart, that desire in your heart, that wish for something deeper. So it's start with that, but just being present with it, not grasping it or trying to do something with it, but actually just opening in gratitude for that yearning, and trust where that takes you. Trust where it takes you. Let go of any attachments to what it's supposed to look like, any outcomes, just being present to whatever arises within. This is kind of what I'm receiving here as my guidance here, and I'm doing that. Within that desire for that lies the realization that it's already there. Within that desire is the realization that it's already there. And so it's much more the gratitude. It's much more than just attachment to some particular outcome. Maybe I'll get something, whatever. But it's a receiving. And it's a receiving because it orients the mind, it orients oneself towards that receiving. And it's not a receiving of something from outside, although it may seem to come that way. It's a receiving into awareness, what's already been there. It's just receiving the richness and the bounty of all that is. So it's not something that's given, it's just received within. I got a little curious. Okay, this is a lovely inner process, but I like to hear thank yous. We all do. Is there a way of sharing this, of communicating this?
Yeah.
And so kind of what I got here. It says there may be communication with others that expresses thankfulness in some form. And this was one of those, what came next was something that sort of surprised me a little bit, because I hadn't thought of it before, but as soon as I heard it, oh yeah, I get it. And it says that there may be communication, but that is not the gratitude. That communication is not the gratitude. The gratitude is the open-heartedness. Gratitude is the open-heartedness. The communication, in whatever way that's communicated, is simply a way of inviting the other person, or a part of myself that I've, like my little kid exiles here from, it's just a way of inviting another into that open-hearted place. The communication is simply a way of aiding and facilitating that sharing. But it's that sharing, the open-heartedness, that's the gratitude. So when the communication comes from true gratitude, the words are gentle, they're tender, they're inviting. There's this lovely spaciousness around them. And there's a connection. There's a connection that goes beyond words. And it's expressed through the eyes, through the tone of voice, through maybe the body's way of turning towards. There are many ways the body may convey the communication. And there's a presence in the connection. And there are always of just a loving respect for oneself and another that's inclusive. It's not exclusive. And it's respect. And respect is a very high form of love. And it's not the hierarchical kind. It's more just that I honor the namaste presence in you and in me. That kind of respect.
It's a consciousness.
It's a consciousness.
It's the consciousness to bring that conscious presence there. And it's a beautiful experience when you have both participants in that level of consciousness engaging with each other in the experience.
Absolutely. Well, it's shared experiences really brings into full awareness that the sharing, it's not abstract then. It's actually brings it into actual lived experience. And then but as that process deepens, then there's an awareness of oneself and other, but that sense of separation starts to fade. And we just sort of settle into just this place of we're together, we're one. And then that abiding presence within, that capital S self, the holy self presence that we all are, that is inherently shared. It starts to come into, we start to become aware of that abiding presence. This is something that's within me. It's not, yes, it's shared with another. It seemed maybe it was evoked with another, but I carry it within my experience. And by evoking it and being present in myself, I can share that with someone else, and it helps them to experience that. But also somebody else's self-presence can help me to realize the same, because we resonate.
Kind of like you and I are right now.
Kind of like we're doing right now. Yes. Well, yes, we're kind of doing that. I think this is kind of delightful. We're getting to actually have a lived experience of that. And I'm actually feeling quite delighted with that.
Mhm.
And so it's just kind of another level of learning what gratitude teaches, that we connect with the divine presence within each of us, with gratitude, with trust, and with willingness. We've talked about willingness in other contexts. It's another favorite topic, which is uh, uh, sometimes the most challenging, when to realize all we have to do is offer our willingness, and then there's something else that will step in. But this particular willingness, and I actually, this actually came to me through Brother David Steindl-Rast, which is the willingness to be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Just that little, just setting an intention to be surprised, just opens up the world so that the things that may have been taken for granted, like when I went for a walk in my park this morning and just really suddenly realized, oh my gosh, the grass is green. It's December. We've had below freezing temperatures several days and near freezing other days, and the grass is green.
Mm.
Just marveling at the greenness of the grass and taking it in. Very ordinary thing. But there was something that it just dropped me into this bigger space of the greenness. There weren't really words for it other than just a sense of awe. That was less than 2 hours ago, going for a little walk before tuning into this interview. Willingness to be surprised. There's a gratuitousness, get the word right here, and a freshness to everything. The other thing that I got walking through the park, I do a lot of my walking in the park. The things carry is there was a deep sense of an absolute trustworthiness there's a divine intelligence that is absolutely trustworthy. You know, my various machinations of my personality ego, that may not be trustworthy sometimes, but there's something deeper inside all of us that actually is trustworthy. Sometimes I'll joke, hey, somebody else is in charge of this thing. But when I try not to be in charge of this thing, things do tend to go a little better, I gotta say. So that the absolute trustworthiness, but then even further down, I'm settling into it a minute here. It's like there's something that comes to greet us, and it has its own. It's like, I have to kind of personify the words a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
is in order to communicate about it. But there's something that greets us with its own gratitude with a capital G.
Yeah.
And as if I were to put words to it, it might be something like, oh, dear one, I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad you've come. It's like at the deepest level, our gratitude is met with gratitude, and it just deepens.
Can I make a comment on that?
Absolutely, please do.
Is when you said that the depth from the place of the gratitude where you are, the space where being met is the field. It's the field that recognizes the intelligence of the energy that you are being, and that
Yeah.
field is meeting you in that gratefulness, in that gratitude, because of the frequency and the energy being that you're being at that time, at that moment. And
Yeah.
so it's that frequency that we're being met with, that holiness, that gratefulness, that divine presence, that oneness is so glad to see us.
Glad to see us. So there's a sense of delight, and for me, there's a sense of awe. And I think it could be described in many different ways using different symbols, actually. But they all point to something here that I think you're pointing to, I'm pointing to. And that there's a sense of delight, awe, and kind of a quality of love that isn't, that kind of goes beyond what we normally experience. It's not like an infatuation or attraction.
Yeah.
It's just something that one can feel. I can feel myself. Little glimpses. I'd love to just live there all the time. But I find gratitude is a way of just keep coming back. It's there. It is the experience, but it's the means to it. With the experience with the computer person, it started with just grateful for his help, but then it deepened and deepened into something that was really included him and his help, but it went beyond that, included my younger self and compassion for my situations, included many things. So, so it's sort of like, as we go through different layers of our experience, it's like gratitude is what opens gratefulness, like gratefulness. It opens the door to the next one.
Yes.
It's a way of, and it's that willingness to be surprised. I don't know what's beyond this door, but I'm willing to be totally surprised, let go of any preconceptions. Maybe I'm a little curious, but not the curious I got to find out, but just the open-minded curious. So that it becomes a profound experience.
Dennis, I really feel like what you're talking about is actually, I don't want to use the word supposed to, but what you're talking about is actually the way that we are living life in the new way, in the new earth, heaven on earth, is what you're talking about right there. Is living so curious, but not from a place, oh, I have to know this next moment, I have to know this next moment, but living in a state of curiosity and wonder and awe without knowing how next week, how next month, or even the next present moment is going to turn out. To approach, the energy with that level of awareness.
Yep. Beautiful. Well put. So I'm thinking that this would, it might be a good time to shift to some practical practices here. How do we, because this might be a little abstract for some folks here.
Let's do it.
So certainly people who have done a lot of meditation and things like that might find this kind of practice useful, but there are other ways of kind of being helpful too. And I like to share resources here, and I'm going to just briefly, this is one. This is a delightful book. It's by David Steindl-Rast and Gary Fiedel. And it's just a lot of little gratefulness practices. I just discovered this maybe a couple of weeks ago. It's got some useful ones in there, so that's a good resource. But I want to say a few. And one of my favorites, which actually is not one from that source, but I'll mention a couple that are, because I like to, it's a great way to end the day. It's called Forgiving the Day. And sometimes, even after I've laid my head on the pillow, I will just do a little brief review of the day, starting with just a sense of gratitude for all of the wonders and the challenges and the opportunities. Because even those things that we might feel that I don't think I can be grateful for that thing that happened. But within that, there's something, even if it's an opportunity. There's always opportunity in everything. But the practice of forgiving the day, and I have to say, a lot of times I don't even get past the third breath before I'm asleep with this one. But basically, it starts with just an openness to the day and a very brief review of the day. And it's not like a systematic start at 8 o'clock and go da 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 da. It's more just allowing what arises.
Mm.
And whatever comes up, you just simply acknowledge it, release it, forgive it, let it go. And it's actually a wonderful way of not carrying the day into the next day. It actually makes for a much more peaceful awakening the next morning and a peaceful night. I love this practice.
It's a beautiful
Forgiving the day.
Totally. I love that. Forgiving the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Letting it go, letting go of all of it so that you can have a new beginning the next morning and begin with a sense of awe, wonder, and gratitude from a clean slate.
Yeah.
I like that.
So it's actually very helpful. Kind of what you take into your sleep affects your sleep during the night, and it affects what you take in the next day.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's lovely. There's another one though that I want to. I like things that are simple that you can actually do, and this one actually does come from David Steindl-Rast, and it's a very simple one. It's called Stop, Look, and Go.
Stop, look, and go.
Stop, look, and go. So basically what that means is you have a moment when there's something that's challenging you, for example, or maybe you're just noticing something that's really rich and you want to appreciate. You stop. You stop whatever you're doing and you just take a moment, take a breath, being still, slowing down, and you just bring your awareness to the gift of the present moment. Stop. The look part is just kind of looking from the perspective of something's being offered to me in this. Life is offering something to me in this moment. Maybe it's just something to be savored. Maybe there's a learning here. Maybe there's an opportunity. By the time I was finished with the computer guy, I was grateful even for all the learning about how to troubleshoot my computer. But a key here is the willingness to be surprised again. That is our friend here again and again. I'm willing. And I'm willing to what? I'm willing to be surprised. Being open to opportunity, and then just allowing the gratitude to expand. Whatever little thing was the initiator of the gratitude feeling, then you let it expand. It grows. Then the go part is you put it into action in some way. So, and there are so many different ways of doing it. It might be to journal about it, or talk to someone, share it about it, or talk out loud about it, or just simply go be expressing gratitude with people. It's just in some way you put it into some action, and I think it's just a lovely practice. So we got a few minutes to go to a thing here. Another one here is I love to walk.
Mm-hmm.
I love to walk. I've already mentioned going for a walk in the park here. This is one doing a very conscious kind of walking where you plan on about a 20-minute walk, and rain or shine in this part of the world. That often means rain this time of year, but that's fine because the coolness and the freshness of the rain and the sound of the rain hissing through the cedars is delightful. But you just start with just a willingness to be surprised. And this is really a mindfulness practice of noticing. Just setting that intention has an interesting effect. I'm not going to say too much about what it is because I like for people to be willing to be surprised by their own discoveries.
Yes.
But it's about being open to seeing the most ordinary things. Like I've probably walked through that park 1,000 times and just never quite marveled at the green grass in December in quite the same way before. So just noticing, and it's an eye towards noticing things that are positive, things that are nourishing, and not just passing them by, but acknowledging each one. Just taking a moment, doesn't have to take a long time, but just acknowledge each one in your mind and pause and see if you can just take in what really feels good about that. What is it? It's not just a verbal description, but what is it that feels good about that? there's something, there's a gentle beauty that touches my heart about the green grass in the park, whatever it is. And then, just see if you can notice what a thing that's good feels good. And then afterwards, any kind of sharing deepens the experience. So it can be journaling, can be just talking out loud. I love sharing with another person, like I've been sharing with you and whoever else is listening here about that experience. It's just the deepening, sharing, lovely practices. I know we're coming on a break here pretty soon. I have another one we can do, but I want to just it's a little longer, so we'll wait till after
Yeah.
our break here.
Good. How did you take us into break when I was disconnected?
Zach did. Zach did, and I offered to jump in.
Okay.
But then you came back, and so it was great.
Well, one of the things I wanted to tell the audience, our beloved audience, that anytime that you all want to join us live here in the audience, in the studio audience, and even talk to Dennis and ask him any questions, we welcome you to join us, because we would love to engage and participate with you. And you can get your free, exclusive ticket to join us live in the audience here at www.KorneliaStephanieVIP.com. And Dennis is on every Friday, the second Friday of every month. That's when he's on at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And we welcome you to join us, right, Dennis?
We want love to hear from you.
We love it. And we had so many responses from people when the last show you did with the projections and the hat that you had on with your beautiful, the veils. Right. That was definitely got a lot of attention. So even I think your granddaughter, somebody said, "That's my grandpa." Oh. So
that was an earlier talk, but yeah, it was my
granddaughter an earlier talk?
Commented, yeah, but that was
they probably didn't know it was you, because you were covered up.
Oh, yeah. They would know.
They would know how they know that you do things like that.
They do. The grandpa's a little goofy sometimes. Yes, they know.
Grandpa's goofy, but they love their grandpa.
They do.
They love their grandpa. Well, let's take a break and we'll come back, and then we'll do another practice. So we'll be right back.
My name's Bob Skeel. I'm 91 years old, and I want to take a few minutes now to share with you the important role, actually the critical role, Kornelia has played in my life. I say critical because I'm not sure I'd be alive at all to the many possibilities that make up our human experience at my age, if not for her. I could have easily become another dead man walking, only half conscious, stumbling through my remaining years, if it hadn't been for Kornelia. 6 years ago, I lost my wife to Alzheimer's. We'd been married for 61 years. I never thought I'd be a widower, but there I was, suddenly lost and alone, but with the good sense to set a working goal for myself. I was going to spend the rest of my life committed to unconditional love, whatever that meant and wherever that took me. A year or so later, Kornelia came along, helping me over several years to focus that unconditional love where it had never been focused before, on me. My whole life, my entire being had been focused on love of neighbor, and I had derived great satisfaction from that. But in the process, I had ignored the second part. I love your neighbor as yourself. Now it was time to direct that love inward. I didn't see that right away, but Kornelia did, and she drew me there. She drew me actually to God. Through many conversations over coffee and after numerous, sometimes tearful, agonizing discussions, Kornelia was able to lead me, kicking and screaming, to within where I needed to be. It was there finally that I was able to re-identify myself. It was in bringing unconditional love to myself that I now saw myself in a new light, a fully conscious, worthy human being, capable of healing, loving, and creating in my own right all these gifts of the evolutionary process. I'm a new man now, younger as I get older. I don't move as fast as I once did, of course, but my smile is quicker and I engage the heart and mind of others more readily. I would likely not be at such a wonderful stage in my life if not for Kornelia. I owe my new life to her, a wonderful friend and a constant source of inspiration. Thank you, Kornelia.
We're back. You're listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. I'm with Dennis Gaither, and today we're talking about the heart of gratefulness. And so Dennis is going to take us into a meditation that we can all do. So if you're driving, we recommend that you don't, close your eyes, but definitely bookmark this for a later time. So Dennis, take it away.
Okay, yes, we'll all be grateful for you not to try to do this while you're driving.
Yeah.
That would be a good thing for you to get home safely. So this is a practice, is one that I use, and it's been around a long time, like about 500 years. So it's a 16th century practice from the Ignatian contemplative spiritual tradition. It's called the Examen, E-X-A-M-E-N. And this is an adapted version. It's not quite identical to the original, but essentially it's a gratitude practice of opening just but it's a meditation, and it's begins in opening in gratitude to all that is. In the original formulation, it was all that God has given, and there is a way of both being aware of, it's like a review of the day, although it can be divided into parts of the day, but typically it's in the evening at the end of the day. And it's like both coming into presence with what am I most grateful for, and also what am I least grateful for.
Okay.
And there's ways of working with both, of being open to both, because both have something of value for us. And I find when I focus on both of them, not each individually, that there is actually a lot of value, sometimes even really being present to what am I the least great, i.e. what I judged against, that my perspective on it actually widens, that there is something of value to me in that. But let's just do it as a guided meditation here. And then, you can pick whichever, if you're doing this following along either on the recording or live here, you can choose one or the other. Either what are you most grateful for so far today, for example, or what are you least grateful for? You can choose either one, but I'm really suggesting as part of your personal practice, doing both because they're both valuable. So first of all, I usually do it sitting because I tend to fall asleep if I'm laying down. We start just sitting in a comfortable position, and eyes closed makes it easier to turn inward. And just gently allow your awareness to move down the center of your body, just noticing whatever might be there, and with having kind of an open-heartedness about it, kind of like just extending love and gratitude to whatever is experienced there. Take your time with that. Let yourself really getting in touch with what's there, and having a certain kind of open-heartedness or friendliness toward whatever the experience is. It's coming here to show you something, to help you with something, or just to be there for you. So as you review that, just get in touch with the experience of something that you're grateful for or not grateful for. And you can ask it, the part of yourself that's holding that, if it would be okay right now to spend some time with it. There's a real nonviolence to this approach. You actually ask permission. And if the permission's given, then you'll be grateful for that. If the permission's not, then actually be grateful that something in you is just saying maybe this isn't the time. But if that is okay, see if you can take a few moments just to create a sense of loving atmosphere around whatever it is. where the part of you that's having that experience in recall, you may be recalling something from earlier, but you're having an experience of it right now. So you are in the present moment with something. And perhaps you may notice that it seems to have a place in your body, and just bring your attention there too. Just acknowledge, where do you, maybe I feel it in the heart or the gut or somewhere else. Wherever it is, that's fine. So you just gently let yourself down into the experience as much as you're comfortable with. And gently see if you can just take care of that feeling a little bit. In whatever way, you can kind of feel what it might want or need. Maybe it just needs to be acknowledged and seen. And see if it wants to tell you anything. And it's really from a place of your own non-judgment about whatever it might be that feeling or aspect is going to be willing to really share with you, what it has for you. But see if it wants to tell you anything about itself. And that communication might come from a word or an image or a symbol. It might be about its history or just some message that it has. Be open to be surprised. Just be curious. So whatever comes, just reach out, care for it. We're not trying to fix it, just opening to the gift. Perhaps it's something that feels good in the moment. Or perhaps it's an opportunity or a new awareness or a learning. No need to force anything. Just be willing to notice whatever comes. And then afterwards, this process is enhanced by doing some journaling about it. I love journaling, or sharing it with someone, or just talking out loud. So we've got just a short time. So I'm going to, Kornelia, invite you to come back into the room here. And I think we've got about 2 minutes here, Zach is saying.
Yes.
Anything that you wanted to say about your experience? I was reading it and kind of doing it, but if there's anything you want to say about your experience, Kornelia.
I noticed I had some hunger
Mm-hmm.
in my stomach. And so I was just noticing that, being with that, being okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
Yeah.
So to be with, that's actually a great practice. I can just be okay with hunger. I don't necessarily have to run out and grab something to eat right now. I can be okay with it. Delightful.
Yeah. How about you?
So for me, it was, of course, part of my attention is going on reading this, but what I was aware of was just being aware that there's kind of a sense of excitement, and just enjoying and appreciating the excitement. And if I was going to put it in words, it was just like, no, don't worry, be happy.
We're going to leave it at that. We're going to leave it at that. Don't worry,
Okay,
be
cool.
happy. Thank you, everybody. Dennis, we love you.
Love you, Cornelia. Be well.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Okay, namaste.
Okay, enjoy your time in Hawaii and Kauai.
Thank
Be
you.
well. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Janet Hickox, and I want to tell you a little story about a story and how my friend Kornelia Stephanie helped me through to the other end of that story. I have gone from the dark of a story I was telling myself that wasn't true to the light of optimism to see my way out of where I was and to where I want to go. And it all started with her scheduling a session for me to help me reclaim my money or my financial empowerment. Up until that point, I had been telling the story that my business was dying, that my business was not successful anymore. And the more I tried to figure out what was going on, the worse I felt about it. And when I had to get ready to do the session with Kornelia, she asked me to go look at the numbers and where I was through the year to date, and then also to come prepared with a number that I wanted to raise my income to. Well, I was quite comfortable with that part, right? I knew where I wanted to be. What I wasn't comfortable with doing is going and looking up those numbers, but I made myself do it, even though I tried to backpedal my way out of the session. She didn't know that, but I was going to try to get myself out of the session. And I looked up those numbers. And it was incredible that I discovered through that process that my business wasn't dying. In fact, I was doing 12% better than I had the year before. So I was shocked. I was shocked literally at the power of the story that I had been telling for months. But more than that, I was shocked that I had allowed myself to get there. And later in that day when I had my session with Kornelia, she pointed out some very obvious things like, how are you going to get where you want to go if you don't know where you want to go? How are you going to get there if you don't have the goals written out, if you don't have it set up so that you know where you are and where you're going to go? Totally makes sense, right? And I had been in business, somebody else's business, as a sales manager for years, and I was a national sales manager. I had awards for sales management. I had business awards because of numbers. And yet when it came to doing my own business, I totally forgot all that I'd ever learned. So by the time Kornelia, working with me in just one session, got me to look deeper at the numbers and where did I want to go, and actually, claiming where I wanted to go, I was filled with a sense of optimism and hope like you can't believe. It was like everything shifted for me. And I am so looking forward to our continued sessions to see how far I can really push myself to get where I've only dreamed of being, where I've never taken the dream and actually brought it into concrete existence. So thank you, Kornelia, for the work that you're doing out there. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see where I go from here.